I think, and this will hurt the millennials' feelings, I think Gen Z took it better. I think that the millennials, the vibe that I got, and I know you'll have a counterpoint.
How dare you?
But
all right, welcome back to the Real Estate Huddle. And today we're going to talk about how the millennial generation and the Gen Zs are having an effect on Denver real estate in the south part of town. So we're going to talk about millennials buying homes in Denver and what that looks like, Gen Z real estate and what they want, and then also modern housing trends, what's popular right now for the younger generation and young buyers here in the South Denver area. And so let's kick it off. What are you guys noticing that a lot of younger buyers that are buying their first home, what are they looking for?
There's a lot of that.
yeah, I think there's a shift. I myself am Gen Z. So if you're a millennial, you can mute this. You can wait till they, give you their opinion, whatever. But for Gen Z, to set the scene, I think some of the research that I've looked at, according to NAR and some other sources, shows that millennials, 90% of them considered buying a home as part of the American dream. Mm-hmm. If we look at that for Gen Z, it's about 60% of Gen Z that still considers buying a home as part of the American dream. So you might think that would lead to, okay, well, I guess they're just buying homes less. And they are because of their age. They're only committing about 3% of the transactions right now. But I think, and this will hurt the millennials' feelings, I think Gen Z took it better. I think that the millennials, the vibe that I got, and I know you'll have a counterpoint.
How dare you?
But while I'm representing Gen Z, I think the millennials said, hey, we want a home, we want to buy a home. But what it just seemed like to me as a Gen Zer is they were like, but we're not going to get a home and we can't do it. And the American dream is dead. Gen Z, I think, is willing to change the American dream to kind of fit where we are right now. So research shows that Gen Z saves their money and are less likely to spend on material things, but they're more likely to spend on things that are important to them, which the main thing that's important in the spending trends is activities, experiences,
travel,
things that they can do. Yeah. But I think as Gen Z gets older, what they're going to find important is going to be their lifestyle, which is really directly correlated to your home. So I think Gen Z, they're making some sacrifices. So when I look at the statistics for like homes that Gen Z are buying, they're buying smaller homes. They're buying less square footage. They're willing to buy a fixer-upper. That's actually one of the biggest differences I saw researching this is Gen Z, they're open to say, hey, give me a fixer-upper, give me a starter home. Let me get my foot in the door and start building that equity and start building my net worth. I'll hurt the millennials' feelings again. I've had millennial clients who they just want the perfect picket fence, 5 bedrooms, 4,000 square feet house, and that's great. But the way that you're going to get there, especially if you're a typical Gen Z, is you got to get your foot in the door. You got to get a $200,000 condo that you're going to live in, and then you can have that as an asset and rent that out. So if you want to get into the nitty gritty, just talk to me because I'm a nerd and I love that stuff. But Gen Z, I think the trend is going to be that they are more willing to spend on their home, but they're also more willing to sacrifice and to make compromises to become a homeowner.
And you attribute that to just like pure toughness from the Gen Z generation?
It's actually a lot of research shows that Gen Z is a lot more financially responsible than millennials from the data that they've been able to collect.
Do you think it's from being scarred by the recession?
Yeah, the main theory about that is that we grew up during the recession. So while we were developing our ideas about finances and what our future is going to look like, America was in a recession. We were hearing from millennials, oh, you can't even buy a home. No one's going to own a home. The market is just shifting, all of these things. So yeah, I do think Gen Z, just because of the world that they grew up in, handled it a little better. I think we're a little tougher, and I think that Gen Z is willing to, and there's lazy people in every generation, but I think the Gen Z people who are gonna buy a home are the people who are hustlers. When I Look at the statistics for who has a hustle, a side hustle, another job. Gen Z is at 51%. That's the highest out of any bracket. So I think we have hustlers, we have grinders. There's a lot of people who are interested in finances, in building their net worth. And I think there's a lot of access to now. It's all on the internet. It's all available to you. So if you're not financially literate, but you're interested in it, you can get there. I think there, was a time where financial literacy was a lot harder to achieve because unless you knew the right people or were in that circle already, it just wasn't knowledge that, got shared.
Yeah. Hey, I remember back in 2013, 14, everybody's saying that millennials are never going to buy houses. They're never going to buy houses. Millennials are the problem of this just wrecking the economy basically because they're not going to buy houses. Yeah. And then we came through and we bought a ton of houses. And then we became the thick of basically the market. We were the market.
Which is odd because there's an argument out there, not odd, which it actually, I guess it is odd. Call it what you want. But
that same chip is on Jackson's shoulder right now.
Well,
I can see it.
If you look at all
we are coming. We coming.
If you look outside of the Great Depression, if you look at some of the economic events that millennials have lived through, we could potentially be considered one of the toughest generations in that regard.
This is all just whose generation?
Whose generation?
You guys, it's tough.
Well, this turned into a debate.
Yeah, and Gen Zers, they have no idea.
Jackson started it.
But ultimately, every generation has this kind of different culture, and I don't know if that's like we talked about earlier. It's why are we culturalizing these generations? I feel like if we just kind of take that out of it, screw that. Let's just get everybody in a home. We all have the same same opportunities, same goals for the most part. Yeah. But yeah, and as fun as it is, to make it a competition, I think overall it's just anybody can get into a home right now. Mm-hmm. And we're continuing to create opportunities through lending programs and through different initiatives to get people into a home, whether it's a really small one or whatever. But as a millennial, you actually look at the age. What's the average age of home buyers right now, or first time home buyers? What is it?
38.
So 38, right?
Yep.
That's actually
up from 34 last year.
Pushing towards Gen Xers. Yeah. I mean, not quite, but
ancient.
Old. Super old. So I mean, if you can get into a home, the earlier you can get into a home, you'll realize I'm pretty ahead of the curve. Yeah, for the most part.
So totally perspective. I'm not a millennial. I'm not a Gen Z.
You're not a millennial?
What are you, Chad?
I've got a couple Gen Zs in my house, but
got him.
Some percentage. A large percentage of all these generations we're talking about have not chosen to get in the market, right? Some don't have the wherewithal. Some don't have the life experience to see what's possible. Some don't have people talking in their ear to change their mind. Mm-hmm. But the folks that we generally get to talk to, I'm simply most impressed when I see a young person, I don't care whether they're a millennial or a Gen Z, they understand that there's compound math involved. And they're saying, just get me in. Because I agree, that's just take the first step. Mm-hmm. I've never taken $1 out of anything I put in my house. And that's 4 houses, right? That's not a discipline thing. That's just, I've always moved into a growing market and I've had the benefit. But I'm so impressed when I get to talk to these young people who say, I have saved 20 grand. I just want to get started. I just need 2 bedrooms and a bath. Yeah. Need a place for my dog in the backyard, and I want to get started. Mm-hmm. And then I can tell the stories about you and your server buddy and his 3 properties. Yeah. I just love hearing that, and I share those stories with my kids. Yeah. Maybe they share them with their kids. Mm-hmm. You just got to get started.
That is pretty cool. For first-time home buyers nowadays that are buying any type of property, it takes a lot of tenacity and it takes focus to really be disciplined. So.
It's a cool accomplishment, though, when you see the younger generation get in. You're like, man.
I think we have more opportunities, too. When I look at trends for Gen Z, and I don't know if they were quite as available for millennials, but a lot more Gen Z people, they're using FHA loans, they're using first-time home buyer loans. Colorado has CHAFA. So a lot of them are using more down payment assistance so that they don't have to save up such a down payment.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of financial tools as well that I think give you an opportunity to get your foot in the door, even if you don't have a huge down payment, even if you don't have, maybe the ability to pay a loan that's going to be higher than a first-time homebuyer's loan. Maybe if your credit is a little bit lower, there's, first-time homebuyer's loans that are more forgiving of that. Yeah. So I think that Gen Z is using a lot of those strategies, especially the 3% who are currently transacting. They're using that to get ahead. And also, I know this is something that you want to touch on as well. The data that I could find showed that about 30% of Gen Z plan on getting a cash gift from their parents towards buying their home. I found about 20% of people who buy a home actually get that cash gift. Yep. So that leaves 5% of people who asked mom and dad and they didn't do it. But that is definitely something where if you are blessed enough to have that opportunity, or if you're a parent listening to this right now, put that money into helping your kid get a home, and you're going to put them so much further ahead. Like if you are thinking hey, I'm at a point in my life where I have some extra disposable income, I want to help my child out, I think helping them get a home is the number one best way that you can give them a head start, set them ahead.
I never had that opportunity with my parents, not for any fault of their own. It just wasn't an option. But now that I look at that being an option for a lot of other kids as a parent, now I'm man, I should probably start putting a lot more money away, compound interest, building money for my kids for when they want to buy a home too. Cause that is a huge benefit. The bank of mom and dad, I know there's a little bit more of a traditional culture out there that's screw that, do it on your own.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, there is value as whether you are the parent or whether you have parents that can afford to do that. It'll help you big time in the long run. Mm-hmm. Keeping that cash in your pocket if possible.
And pay your parents back. If your parents help you buy a property, that property is going to appreciate.
I always encourage that. Yep.
And when you go to sell that property, you're going to get your cash earnings. Take whatever your parents gave you, give it back to them, and then take the rest and put that into your next home.
And add a couple grand on top of it. Just
give them some interest. Take them to a nice dinner. They got you a house. So.
Yeah, we are about to see a generational wealth distribution like we've never seen before, though, in the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. One of the RE/MAX Pros events, they had an economist that really stuck to me. But one of the things he was talking about is where the wealth lies, and he was talking about it in context at the time about where the government subsidies that we got through COVID were. Mm-hmm. But something like 78% of the wealth lives with the boomers and the Gen Xers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember seeing a stat.
Right, and it's coming. So I don't know that we can have this conversation about the Gen Zers and millennials without talking about that 30% is not going to go down, it's going to go up.
Right.
Right? We have generational living. Mm-hmm. I'm going to sell my house. We're going to go buy something. I'm going to have a place to live, mom and dad in the basement. There's all these trends are coming.
Yeah.
And then to put it back into South Denver Metro, aside from single family homes, flat year, right? Mm-hmm. Is it going to stay that way? Probably not. Rates come down a little bit. We talk in real estate, how many people do you know who've wanted to buy, but they're waiting for something, more inventory, lower rates? Yeah. How many folks do you know that have been wanting to sell to upgrade, but have waited for something? A lot of those things are going to come into play in calendar year 25, and there should be a lot more liquidity, which brings back to the fundamental argument is investing in real estate has always paid. Mm-hmm. Yep. There's not a better way to create the compounding effect of putting your money to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you were saying with that wealth transfer, some of the data I saw, according to NAR, 16% of Gen Z are using inheritance to purchase their home. So I do think, with all that wealth concentration in these older generations, absolutely, that's a huge factor in what it's going to look like moving forward. Yeah. I like that point.
Mm-hmm. Fun trend.
Definitely.
Take some time.
And as far as like the millennial buyers in the Denver metro area, like I see two types. I see the type that has already lived in kind of a tight space for a little while that wants to like expand and have less like more space between neighbors. And then I also see the type that is just loves kind of the European dream, right? Of being connected to everything.
Yeah.
And wants to be like the vertical builders, right? That are building these 3-story homes. Builders are catering to that generation right now because they're not like really affordable for like the first like Gen Z type buyers, but I'm seeing move up buyers that have sold their house or maybe a condo or a townhouse. Now they're in one of these like 3-story new construction attached units or detached 3-story unit where they have, you know, stairs, but it's more of an open concept. You've got multi-space like type options in, you know, you could use it as a study or it's open to be like a gathering area, different things like that. So I think builders are trying to really cater to the generations that are buying right now.
Well, and on top of that, it's interesting to see the trends that are coming out of millennial and Gen Z as far as like color choices, like even down to like cabinets, like there's very modern, there's very traditional, there's and like, you know, the bigger the island, the better, or like open floor plans and
Natural light,
like
windows.
any type of color. I feel like any type of color that is picked, whether it's like an actual bold color or more of a shade, there's some type of gray in it.
Yeah.
It's like a gray green, or it's like grayish, or like it's like it's very everything's
I saw
gray.
Something posted online, which I almost sent around to the group because it made me want to share with Landon. But the 10 trends in interior design that will go away in 2025. I don't know. No one has any authority to say such a thing, but it's like get rid of the white cabinets and the you know, the waterfall end to your islands.
Yeah.
Anyway, I laughed out loud twice.
It's funny. I can't say that I'm not in that culture because we have like we did a very light gray, and then we have, if you want a good green, evergreen fog with Sherwin-Williams. It's solid, but it's definitely like this
Great
pine
name.
gray. And I see it all over social media. It's like, try these colors together, and it's always some kind of beige gray and some bold color with gray input in it, and funny little trends. They look great, don't get me wrong, but it's we'll see how long they last because it is a trend for sure.
For sure.
Trends end.
Yeah.
I think I made a prediction in the last episode. This will be my prediction. I think that Gen Z, as they move into buying age, I think we're going to see a lot more of people buying with friends. And I think affordability is the big crux right now for Gen Z. Jobs are less secure. It's harder to save up money for a down payment. Interest rates are higher. So coping with those difficulties, I definitely think that as we see Gen Z move into the buying market, we're going to see more situations where instead of saying, hey, me and 2 other roommates, how about we split the rent on a house? People say, hey, what if we bought this house together as an investment? All of our rent is going to come back to us and we're going to profit off of it instead of our rent going to the greedy landlord.
Yeah.
So that's my prediction, is that Gen Z is going to be moving into a lot more of next gen living, but especially I think living with friends, buying homes with people who aren't necessarily a spouse or family.
It's a bold prediction, but
I
like with
agree.
their
I've
community
seen-
feel, I think they could do that.
I've seen some of that. We had that conversation with my son. How do you do it? I think
And it's
generally
complicated,
cohabitation, whether it's own or rent, is going to be much more practical when there's not marriage involved. But I buy that trend. I think that
Where are we seeing most of these buyers buy? Like, where are these buyers wanting to live here in Denver? Like, what communities?
I don't have any actual like statistics that I've pulled to support it, but I do think, and I'm biased because I live there, I think the west side of Denver towards the foothills, especially Lakewood area, Wheat Ridge, Arvada, I think that's where the young people are going. South side Denver is amazing, particularly if you can afford it. But like we're talking about with Gen Z, affordability is an issue. I think that you're getting more value, you're getting more home on the west side of town now. And you can get more home on the east side of town on Aurora, but in terms of just the value, what you get, I think Lakewood, those kind of areas, they were built in the 50s and 60s. So there's lots of open space, there's bigger lots, just lifestyle wise, and in terms of just the clients that I have that are Gen Z where they move, I think that as far as Denver goes is the best area. Or if you are that kind of person, right downtown.
I see a lot of that.
Yeah.
I see a lot of most of the 20-year-olds that I know are all living downtown.
Yeah.
Cherry Creek to Denver kind of area.
Or
They can
DTC.
afford- yeah,
like
DTC.
condos in DTC area.
Yeah.
No, buying. Yeah.
It's funny though,
I see some.
because you have like the single clients, right? Or maybe they're living with their girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. But if they have no kids, right? The dinks or whatever you want to call them. Yeah. They tend to be more towards like the city, right? More closer to downtown. But then the ones that, have gotten married, plan to have a family.
Yeah.
I do see them stemming out farther in that southwest, southeast Denver areas, like just the Highlands Ranches and Parkers and even like Littleton and stuff like that, to where they know like if they do have a baby, they'll have an extra room for it.
Well, the heart of the millennials right now is like in their late 30s, right?
Yeah, and they're starting their families.
I feel
and
like
stuff like
most of them are moving to the suburbs.
Yeah,
Like, it's kind of been an exodus from downtown to the suburbs.
I would say Gen Z is more, catered to like, where the more the busy areas, like the busy life, like where the nightlife is and all the cool stuff is, and then you have the millennials are now starting to pull away from that type of lifestyle into the more suburban areas.
Yeah.
I think we talked about, previous, a lot of our clients, a lot of our leads that we start new relationships are out-of-staters coming in. And I feel like almost all of our conversations start with the involvement of Aurora, because when you're looking in Denver Metro, new builds, more affordable, and then you get into some of the variables that matter more about access to the outdoors, nightlife, arts, and then you end up coming more towards the Metro.
Yeah,
That's nothing against Aurora. It can be more affordable, but it's not as close to stuff you may fall in love with as you think.
As recently as I think last year, Aurora was still the 8th fastest growing suburb in the United States. Wow. So Aurora is a big area, so it includes just a lot geographically, and it is changing. I'd say Aurora includes some really nice, really great areas, and it also includes some areas that I wouldn't want, my family there walking alone at night. But I, like you were saying, I think Gen Z, they want the lifestyle. And what I like about being either in Denver or on the west side is obviously access to Denver and the nightlife. But I think increasingly the statistics show Gen Z is drinking less, going out less. And so I think, the access to the mountains, the nature, the activities, the experiences and things, tend to be towards the west in the foothills and the mountains. Yep. So I think, if you're on just kind of like the west side of Denver, you can go into Rhino, go into the trendy areas, go to the cool bars, go see the new stuff, go to a concert at the Pepsi Center, go to a Nuggets game, and then you can also, hey, I want to get away from people, let me just go up to my little spot in the mountains that's a waterfall that I know about, whatever. So,
did you say Pepsi Center?
Yeah, well, they've changed it now. What is it now? Ball
like 10 years ago.
No, I think there's
caught up in that. I didn't expect the Gen Z to say Pepsi Center. That's
pretty good.
That's what caught my eye.
I was going to make a serious point, but conversations we generally have about architecture, and I think when you talk about the west side and Lakewood, smaller houses, but they're built really well. They generally have larger lots.
Yep.
It's very appealing.
Yeah. And I think just walkability to things, the opportunities for social like engagement, at parks, at restaurants, bars, coffee shops, like that's still so appealing to those generations, to the Gen Zs and millennials, as long as they can afford it. And I think to your point, like they're sacrificing to be able to afford it, just going smaller until they can afford bigger, right? So I think there's going to be a lot of trickle up equity for those people that did decide to get in the market. It's going to be a really smart decision.
Trickle up equity.
Yeah.
Is that trademarked?
basically where your equity increases in your house, and then you buy a new price point,
Trickle up
right?
equity.
Next price point. So, awesome. Well, I think it's been a good discussion. Definitely if you are a millennial or a Gen Z that is looking to move to Denver and looking at neighborhood-specific spots in town that are more appealing, you've probably heard of a couple here, but we can tell you a lot more. So reach out to us, comments section below. You can ask questions or just give us a call. Contact info is below, and we can definitely make sure that you have a great experience looking and shopping for a home here in the Denver market. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. So if you have enjoyed what you're listening to and you'd like to hear more, make sure to press that subscribe button so that you can not miss out on any more episodes that are coming up. And also check out all of our contact information is below. You can see us at the dreamsmithteam.com to look up more information about our team and our history and all of the members of our team, and see contact information that you can reach us if you have any real estate needs.
See you next time.